I quote Gandhi, "To build a house takes time, its destruction takes none." Close quote. Why is this house so fragile? Or to put it less poetically, why is the bullock cart a better vehicle, metaphorically or otherwise, for the work of establishing the good, for the building and preserving of the house of Dharma, than, say, the motor car? In what way is Gandhi's beloved postcard better or good in itself than the electronic mail, whose instantaneity would make it evil itself, if you go by Gandhi's remarks? Does it perhaps have something to do with the nature of technique itself? Is it the case that bullock cart is built with skilled hands and I can understand and even learn how to do so, but railways or the internet makes me dependent, vicarious or ignorant? What is the material out of which the house of Dharma is built such that it's more responsive to some objects and concepts and not others? If that material is experience itself, how can it be that experience is more responsive to some objects, concepts, practices, and not others? There is something elusive here. Let's try to get hold of it by asking, why are there only lawyers, doctors, and railways on Gandhi's list? Why not other objects, professions, concepts, practices, and more importantly, how do we decide? What criteria do we employ to say that these are all undesirable practices? Sympathetic treatment of these remarks aimed at clarifying and deepening Gandhi's intuitions about violence could perhaps take us some distance, but I think would still fall short of what we are seeking, namely the source of the kind of violence unleashed by colonialism and the West. The larger problem here lies not with Gandhi's remarks, but with the frame that has always been used to understand Gandhi. We have for so long persisted in interpreting Gandhi as an anti-modern, taking it for granted that we understand what modernity is and what it is to be against it. We have never bothered to even ask what the frame of modernity is all about. There are strands in Gandhi's thinking that might seem to suggest that he seeks decolonization by identifying objects or practices that are disruptive of or inhospitable to the house of Dharma. Some of his remarks certainly mislead us in this direction. That, however, cannot be what Gandhi had in mind. Our life with concepts and objects was always complete. It was so before railways, relativity or the internet. But it was so before the postcard and the bullock cart too. New objects or concepts do not themselves disturb or undermine the integrity of experience. So this frame then is so deeply entrenched in our minds, this frame of looking at Gandhi as a modern, anti-modern, that we persist in seeing Gandhi as against industrialization, against science, against modern medicine, etc. We do not pause to reflect on Gandhi's conception of the integrity of experience that grounds his attitude both to the objectual domain and action domain as such, in the most abstract or philosophical sense, and not merely to this or that object, whether modern or traditional. The task is to explicate that grounding, or what amounts to the same thing, that theory of ethical learning. Distinctive conception of truth and knowledge are involved in Gandhi's elaboration of that theory. The difficulty is to locate where and how, because as you know, Gandhi was rightly busy with a momentous thing of driving the British out of the nation, and he was not a systematic thinker. But I think, having said that, I think there is something that Akhil Virgrami gets very right, that he, more than any other thinker, was a very, very consistent thinker. That is not apparent from the disparate remarks that he makes. Although Gandhi never really explicitly addresses modern politics, so we come to the theme of this conference. Although Gandhi never explicitly addresses modern politics in Hind Swaraj, I think it is a legitimate question to ask how he would have viewed it, given what he says about medicine, law, history, nationalism, and so forth. The way I would like to think about experience, and here I am following the lead of Balu. In some sense, this is two paramparas meeting, sort of Gandhi's parampara and, as one would like to think of, Balu's parampara. I mean, paramparas were research programs. So, in that sense, it is a kind of attempt to mingle the two paramparas. The way I would like to think about experience becoming occluded, and this is a phrase of Balu, or inaccessible, And the way to remove it or resist it or reflect on the reasons for the inaccessibility depends on the large story one would have to tell about the very different ways in which experience are occluded or concealed in the West and in India. I mean, this is just a gesture. I don't think I can really undertake it. Though in a clunky way, this paper, parts of it that I'm not going to read, has it. However, the argument that experience is becoming inaccessible clearly wants to hold on to the idea that experience and reflection are still possible. Experience is all there is. This is not an innocuous notion, because the next question is, how do structures arise that occlude it? For that is Gandhi's concern, and his critique is directed not against modernity, but against structures that occlude experience. And I'm suggesting that all these things that he finds problematic or asks us to reflect about, that is medicine, law, history, nationalism, and so forth, if you actually go deeper into what his objections are, you can uncover the deeper objection by thinking of them as experience excluding structures. And that's why he's saying that, look, reflect on them. He's not saying what is, in some sense, some of his remarks mislead you into thinking some moralistic thing that don't use it because you're in that way. You will, like the famous example of the medicine, you overeat and you suffer indigestion, and then because there is medicine now, you just never bother about your food. You keep overeating and you keep taking a Daijin or whatever. There's at one level it's not that it's not right, that it doesn't make you reflect, but there is a even deeper reason I think Gandhi gives that I think we need to slowly explore here, and that's what I'm trying to sort of gesture at. And those reasons are common in the sense that is the integrating element in his reflections on law, medicine, technology, and so on. Now, here is a test case, if you like, for deciding or at any rate exploring where the concerns of the research program, that is what I call Bala's Parampara, overlap with Gandhi's and where it differs. The way I read Gandhi's Hind Swaraj, the philosophical arguments Gandhi presupposes or the perspective he brings to bear on the following issues are all of a piece, or in Bilgrami's terminology, integrated. Medicine, technology on the one hand, and religion, law, history, and nationalism on the other. Before we go any further, let's ask if this perspective also extends to the domain we familiarly, if rather vaguely, call politics. I mean, that's the consideration that I want to bring to bear. If there is a set of considerations that we can explicate from Gandhi's reading of Hind Swaraj, our reading of Gandhi's Hind Swaraj, then can we extend that to politics too? Politics, as we understand, we don't have to define it right now. We have let's assume that we have an intuitive understanding of it. Let me just set aside the elaborate stage setting needed and go directly to the two very obscure, but in my view, very deep remark Gandhi makes. One has to do with his claim, or more accurately, his implied claim that Hinduism is not a religion like others, that it is a religion that underlies all religion. The other about how no two Indians are one as no two Englishmen are. Both are highly misleading if one does not read Gandhi de re. That is, if you don't read Gandhi, what Gandhi had in mind, and get focused too much on his terms, his terminology, which he was just grabbing here and there. Very quickly, the way my perspective delivers the integrity involved here is by locating the experience occluding structures involved in all these areas: nationalism, law, history, medicine, and what we now want to consider politics. Where does the remark about Hinduism as religion underlying all religion fit in? He does not quite say that, but I want to take that to be the implication of his claim that India has increasingly become irreligious when we place it in the context of his remarks about Advaita and his allegiance to what he calls Hinduism. He is explicitly contrasting religion as inquiry, that is what he means by religion that underlies all religion, with religion as identity. In my reading, he is really saying that what we take to be Hinduism really points to traditions of reflecting on experience, and it's these traditions that allow Gandhi to diagnose and resist experience of floating structures in different domains.